Today, Liz and I are joined by Dr. Julia Garcia for a meaningful conversation about the real, everyday power of hope. Drawing from her book, The 5 Habits of Hope, Julia reminds us that hope isn't just optimism. It's a habit we intentionally build, starting with one small but powerful word, maybe. Maybe things can improve. Maybe this moment can open a new door. She also shares practical, easy to apply strategies for parents, teachers, and leaders who want to model hope through simple, consistent actions. Dr. Julia Garcia is a psychologist, author, and speaker dedicated to helping people build lasting habits of healing and hope. Blending personal stories and behavioral science, she empowers audiences through her book, The 5 Habits of Hope, TEDx Talks, and her live podcast, The Journey with Dr. J, proving that hope isn't just something you feel, it's something you practice. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome to Stronger Marriage Connection. We're so glad to have you here. I'm psychologist Dr. Liz Hale, along with the renowned specialist and professor Dr. Dave Schramm. We have dedicated our life's work to bringing you the best we have in valid marital research, along with a few tips and tools to help you create the marriage of your dreams. We're going to talk about hope today, Dave. It's like a revolving door, this one specialist says. Hope enters one moment and then escapes the next. When hope is gone, it negatively impacts our physical and our mental health. And the opposite is also true. They say, Dave, and I'd like to know your thoughts on this, that hope is a single best predictor of well-being compared to any other measure of trauma recovery. You buy that? Makes sense?
Oh, that is awesome. You have to have that hope, that belief that things will get better, that things will be better than they are now. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, my mantra, I don't know if our guests would agree with this, but I do believe that nothing is ever wasted, that no experience is ever wasted, that everything in our life teaches us, inspires us, helps us to become better if we use it for such. But hope positively impacts our lives, our marriages, and our families. And while hope alone, of course, doesn't solve every issue, it can certainly support our journey of healing. Well, today we're going to determine how to break through our fears, doubts, hopelessness, and build lasting habits of healing and hope. And who's going to help us with this? Only the one and only Dr. Julia Garcia. She is a psychologist, author, and renowned speaker dedicated to empowering people through the science of mental health. Welcome to Stronger Marriage Connection, Dr. Julia Garcia.
I have all the feels with that intro. Thank you so much. I felt like so deeply connected to you sharing even just some of the excerpts that I wrote. Thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Yes. Well,
we can end it right now. I'm already feeling hopeful.
You and me both. I think one of your truly captivating gifts is you're out in the world speaking to small and large audiences. Those are really your clients, right? And Dr. Julia, I think is your candor about your own beautiful life. As a young woman, you were on the edge of despair, I think you'd say, imagining that you may not even live to see your 20s. And I think you said high school was maybe the first time you really didn't care about living. The fear of never being enough followed you everywhere. I think so many can relate to that. Tell us more of your own story, please, and how it inspired you and your journey to where you are today.
I mean, your mantra in the beginning really spoke to me because when you said nothing is a waste, for so long, I felt like a waste. And it was going on a journey of what I like to say, spoken word poetry is a huge part of my journey because I didn't like talk therapy. I didn't like talking about feelings. And poetry was one of the first initial ways outside of like a physical release that really helped me on my journey. And there was something I wrote once and it reminded me of your mantra. And it was create worth where others, even yourself, see waste. And I feel like it's a huge part of your mantra reminds me of where my journey began. And it was feeling like I was a waste, which meant that I felt like I could be thrown away, that my life didn't have a purpose, that I didn't want to take emotional risks in any relationships. I would say it was, I have commitment issues, but really I didn't want to have depth in friendships, family member engagements, any kind of relationship, because it was twofold. One, I didn't feel like I could truly love them in the way that they deserved. And two, because I didn't feel worth being loved as well and receiving that. And so my journey really began with, that feeling worthless, and that started to breed feeling hopeless. And that hopeless place was a place that I say in the book, if you ever know, if you've been in that place, hopelessness can feel like a hole you call home. And it was what I was most familiar with. And then, through my work, which we can talk more about, but I started to realize that I wasn't the only one who had been in that place. And I started to think, if there was a process to get to that dark place of hopelessness, then maybe there's a way out of it too. Maybe there's a process out of it. And, through some forced reflection, I was in college and I got this scholarship. And what happened is I achieved a part of a big dream of mine, which was 2,000 miles away from where I grew up. But I took all my feelings that I had never dealt with or processed with me. I took that hopelessness with me to college, and I ended up getting into a lot of trouble. I was turning to things like drugs and alcohol, blackouts all the time, unhealthy relationships. And I was forced to reckon with these things because I got in trouble in school. And that was really the mark for me, where I decided that I'm going to choose to discover what I'm capable of, and can I be healthier? And I started my journey in that way. But it really started from feeling the lows of the lows and it following me all the way to college.
And that you did. You're such a gifted writer. I love, and I'll share this so Dave and our listeners know, but you replaced shots at the bar on Friday nights until you blacked out to shots of ginger beer on Saturday mornings to improve your gut health. Rather than running away from your problems, you ran along New York Hudson River on weeknights. You stopped using yourself as a punching bag and started training in a boxing gym, sparring with professionals instead. You took your pain and you channeled it into the work you're doing today. What's the best part of your life today, Julia, would you say?
Oh, my faith in my family. My faith is the foundation of everything I do, and my family is my home now.
Beautiful. Do you have one child? I know you're married.
I have two. I actually wrote this book while I was breastfeeding a newborn baby. So, I mean, it was birthing two things of love and joy at the same time. It was a very challenging time. Mostly it wasn't the writing that was as hard. It was like the headspace and the time and that. But it was a beautiful journey, but very, very challenging.
So that was your secret. Birthing two things at once. Wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Julia, your life story is really powerful. Congratulations on your latest book, The 5 Habits of Hope. Your mission to prove that hope isn't something you feel, it's something you practice, one habit at a time. I love that. What's the practice of hope? I mean, what does hope look and sound like?
Oh, I say hope has a sound, and I'm going to just introduce that sound right away, if that's okay. So I am going to rustle some paper, because hope for me is when people are able to have a process to process their feelings, then we have a way back to hope. And what I do a lot of exercises with audiences, and people share their stories. So the book was inspired because I felt so honored by the amount of vulnerability that people share with me about their own struggles, their own needs, their own hopes. And I'm going to read a few, if that's okay with you, because it inspired a lot of the book, and it really epitomizes what I believe hope really is. It's someone who is a paraprofessional shared, I struggled because I had infidelity in my relationship. I felt worthless. I needed someone to talk to. I stayed silent because I didn't want someone to judge. I am hopeful for a better and stronger relationship. I'll read one more here. It says, I struggled to get out of an abusive marriage for 10 years because of past trauma and my role in the community. I felt alone, not good enough, like a failure, beaten up. I needed someone to talk to and help me make a plan, someone to believe in me. I stayed silent because my kids, my job, fear of what he would do to me. I am hopeful for healing, peace, and joy. And I have been inundated with stories like this for over a decade. And at the end, I invite people, if they would like to let go of these struggles, that the prompt is that they stayed silent about. And it's such a beautiful thing to hear that rustling of the paper and then passing them forward, or people sharing things anonymously in different ways through different things that I do. I also ran a crisis hotline during the height of the pandemic, and I was amazed at how many people were feeling alone in their marriage and in their relationship. And it just, all of the feelings of hopelessness were just making me realize that, man, we really need to figure out how. I know I needed to figure out how we can get back to a place of expectation and belief and a sense of worth that kind of makes it all possible, ties it all back together.
That is beautiful. As you say, hope is more than optimism. It's a habit, as you talk about in your book. How does that idea apply to long-term relationships where optimism often fades over time?
Yeah, it's like our feelings. Our feelings are our emotional roller coaster. And if you're like me, I say you might go on what I call feeling detours, where you do just about anything other than feel. And in today's cultural context, we see that as doom scrolling and really being inundated in social spaces, but feeling very isolated and alone. There's like this social shift. So for me, those feelings, we can't really count on those and lean on those, because with all of the dopamine rushes online and all of the social shifts happening, it's really creating this backdrop of we're not having something that's sustainable. And so building a process to hope is helping us have more of a healthy relationship in the long run. It might look like messier up front, but the goal is that we have more long-term health and healing, as opposed to these quick emotional fixes, because that's a lot of what we're used to in society right now, is those quick fixes. And so this is like building a process that's foundational to keep things sustainable.
Love that. Thank you.
So many couples, I think, feel that they've lost hope in marriage. And from your perspective, what does it take to rebuild it? And where does somebody even start?
One of the places I start, even when I struggle in my marriage is not perfect. It's never going to be. And if I get into that place, each of the habits, they're emotional habits, they come in the book with different feeling framework prompts. And one of the ones that I always go back to is, why am I staying silent? What do I need? What does support look like and feel like, smell like, even for me? Do I need to go be around some coffee beans right now? Like, what would support look like or feel like for me in that moment? And why am I staying silent? So those are two of the major ones I would say, like, for an immediate helping to just shift and interrupt that thought cycle that could start to just brew and get us deeper and deeper into that dark space. And also, I would say, to take the pressure off having to be positive and thinking I have to have this ton of hope all the time. Like, take that pressure off. You don't need a ton of hope. You just need a little tiny bit, little tiny drop. And that's enough to interrupt that thought cycle. And I call those maybe moments, which we can explore a little bit later. But it's about interrupting that thought cycle. And for me, it started with reflection, which is the first habit, because I was doing what I said earlier and going on feeling detours. I would do anything but feel. So developing that process for me started with reflection. And that was identifying what I was struggling with. Can I put words to it? Can I label different feelings? Anger was a huge feeling that started to come up, and just really approaching things by, in that moment, what can I do right now to pause and maybe prompt myself to interrupt a thought cycle?
We'll be right back after this brief message. And we're back. Well, let's dive right in.
I like that. The 5 habits, real quick. Do you want to just run them down? They each have a word.
Yes, let's do it. So the first one is reflection. And this is about pausing long enough to maybe face a feeling, which is a very difficult thing to do for a lot of different reasons. But when you're ready, and if you need support, get support to do that as well. But the first one is reflection. It's pausing long enough to do that. And habit number 2 is I think the biggest one for this generation, especially for young people, millennials, Gen Zers, is the emotional habit of risk, because there's so many relationships. We don't have to go off on a tangent here, but I'm in a deep dive of AI right now and our relationship with it. And just that backdrop of people feeling completely alone and isolated, but always so engaged because the relationships aren't both ways. It's not two ways. There's no risk involved, especially when it's not a real person on the other end. So the emotional risk, letting yourself be seen.
Okay.
Letting yourself be known.
Awesome. Reflection, risk, and the last 3?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Then we have release, which is the emotional habit of letting go. This is something that has no bar or bounds. I mean, this can look so different depending on who you are, where you are. It could be a physical meditation. It could be running. It could be journaling. For me, it's poetry. And this is where you find that habit of emotional release, where it is a part of your lifestyle. And I say that helps us prevent a breakdown. Prevent a fallout. It's preventative work. Number 4 is receive. This one's really difficult if you're like me and you do not like compliments, to let love in. When you are just someone who's like, I'm going to do this all myself. I got this. I don't need nobody. This is an art to practice receiving support, a hug. If I'm really angry, and my husband knows he's the most patient man on earth, he will come and give me a hug and he'll be like, hug me back. I'm like, this is all I can do right now. I could just receive the hug. I can't give it back.
I understand.
Not today.
Yeah.
Maybe in a minute. And then the 5th and final habit of hope is repurposing. And this is about taking any situation, and as you said in your mantra earlier, nothing is a waste. How can we repurpose it? How can we reclaim it, rechannel it? My mother always collected vintage things from garage sales, and she would like reclaim the furniture and repurpose it. She always had this beautiful way of seeing value in anything. And that's how I like to look at repurposing.
It is beautiful. Never thought of it that way. Thank you for that. In your research, Julie, how does hope influence the way we handle, let's say, conflict in marriage? Is there a hopeful way to disagree that can strengthen a relationship?
Definitely. I know other guests have probably said this too, because I've listened to your podcast. Staying curious is a huge one. And this is helpful in any crisis intervention, any crisis in any relationship. And this was something foundational in my crisis intervention work, is not staying curious. It closes us off. So staying curious, and not just about your partner, but also about yourself. Am I capable of becoming more compassionate? And being curious about that. And it's one thing to be curious about another person and help build empathy and dismantle those walls that can build up. But to stay curious about what we're capable of, to continue to be open to that journey of discovering that just because I feel this way, that doesn't mean that's all of who I am. And it's not a period, it's a semicolon. Can I keep going on this journey? And can I be gentle with myself enough to do so? And I think most people who are probably listening to this, who want to improve their relationships, their marriages, themselves, they're probably really hard on themselves. And it's giving ourselves like some grace and saying, this process is a process. And in order to be in a relationship, this is something that's never going to end. It's ongoing. So making sure when we have hope in a relationship, it's also identifying that at the center of everything is our own worth and value, and making sure that we keep fueling that and being curious about what that can be.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that curiosity. Yeah, Julia, how do the 5 habits you've written about show up in the daily dynamics of a partnership in small, ordinary moments?
One of the big ways they show up in these in little moments with marriages is in realizing our resistance to processing our feelings, realizing what holds us back. My husband will say withholding love. Like, do we withhold love from each other, serving one another, supporting one another? And only we know what we withhold. We know what we hold back. And when we withhold, what I've recognized is this, and I'll give an example. When I work with people, I usually do so in like keynote settings, workshops, things like that. And people will come and speak to me afterwards, and they'll share very significant, vulnerable things. And I'll see them in real time grappling, even if like we're telling jokes and we're having fun, I'll see them grappling with withholding a smile and withholding joy. Because what I've realized is when we withhold everything. We withhold creativity, talents, joy, struggles, strengths. We get in this mindset that becomes a place where we're not just withholding the good, we're withholding the heartache, and we're withholding it all. So we're withholding hope. And so I think it's in your day-to-day recognizing, what am I withholding? And again, why am I staying silent about it? What would support look like or feel like for me in this moment? What's a way I can release it that's healthy and not hurtful? And just kind of getting into a habit of continuing to develop a process to process our feelings, because our feelings are the biggest hope blocks.
I'm curious with that, withholding hope is, I guess, the opposite of hope. What would you say? Is it fear? Is it despair? Anxiety? Yeah. What is it? The flip side of that? Why do we withhold?
So I'm sorry, could you ask that again?
Yeah. Just the flip side of hope, because you're talking about withholding. And for me, I think about fear, this risk, this despair, that I don't have hope. Almost flipping hope. What's the opposite?
Yeah. I mean, when we don't have hope, our motivation goes away. Our ability to emotionally regulate and connect, it's making us almost shut down the parts of our soul that can't breathe, or that need to breathe, that need to be free. And so, I would say what you mentioned, fear, control, those are the big things, and doubt, doubting our inherent worth.
Yeah.
Wow. So painful. That resistance, I can just relate to that resistance, right? Kind of digging my heels in. I don't know what that's about. Maybe ego, stubbornness. I'm not sure. Wanting to be right, or I don't know. I'm going to think about that though some more. Why would I be resistant? Having a good connection, let's say in marriage, in that moment, what's going to take to melt me? Can you either one of you relate to that? Sometimes I feel like a little bit of an ice cube goes through my blood. It's like, when I get hurt.
Like pride, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm going to take us all the way back. All the way back, like teenage relationships. And somebody once told me, "You have a cold heart." And I said, "Thank you. I try really hard." Because I was so determined not to have any feelings, even in a relationship, that I was like, yes, it's working.
It's working.
I am a wall.
How about that? That's pretty cute. I think we can all relate to that. I love how you also say, Julia, that hope is contagious. I can see that. Do you find that partners can reinfect each other with hope?
Oh, 100%. And if you're not in that place and again, this goes to the debunking that hope means like false positivity. It doesn't. I like to say, instead of false positivity, it's feelings process. It's someone being able to be really present, to be able to process their feelings and be really present. And the only way to hope is really honesty. So I believe that you can't really have hope if you don't have some measure of fear and doubt, because then it would be useless. So it's acknowledging all of those things. And so I 100% believe that it's infectious, and it doesn't have to be like someone's being really positive for it to come get to me, come attach to me. It's the ability to continue to see that someone can still have expectation and a sense of worth, and they can still show up fully and be present and honest. And that is contagious. It inspires motivation, and it inspires in general.
Yeah. Julia, if you could give one daily habit to couples who want to strengthen their relationship through hope, what's simple something could they start doing today?
I think a great one is letting go, release, letting go of maybe that's pressure, maybe that's expectations, maybe that's the past. I think the art of letting go is something that has to be a habit in order to hold on to hope. And it has to, you have to let go in order to receive, to let in, and identifying what you want to receive could be a great way to try and figure out what you want to make room for and where you can make room for that. I was angry for a really long time. I was angry. And when I repurposed that anger into preventative professional work, it actually made space for me to receive other emotions that anger, when it was hurting me, was blocking. And I realized the world isn't out to get me, or the person who's trying to love me isn't trying to hurt me. But when I had this like anger about me, it was blocking their ability to show and share love with me. And so it was, I had to figure out how to release it. And it doesn't have to be in a personal relationship that you release something. Like I shared, I released in a professional way. And that helped me in my personal life.
We'll be right back after this brief message. And we're back. Well, let's dive right in.
So release, that could be the sixth habit of hope, maybe, Dr. Julia. I love that word, release. That's another good R word. What about for singles? We have many singles who listen to Stronger Marriage Connection. They might be dating or starting new relationships. What does it look like to build a foundation of hope instead of just chemistry, or how compatible are we?
Oh, I love that. And for all the singles out there, thank you for showing up for your marriage right now, because that is, you're putting in the work right now, and it's about becoming. And I like to say it's about positioning. A lot of my journey personally was about positioning. And you read some of it earlier. Instead of taking shots at the bar, I ended up going to bookstores and hanging out. And it was a positioning. I was positioning myself to discover what I was capable of being, how I could continue to grow. I positioned myself to go to grad school, even though I didn't drop out once or twice, but 3 times. But I kept positioning myself. And again, it goes back to the process is a process. So wherever you're at on your journey, just keep going and keep growing. And I think it's less about outcomes, because we can achieve goals all day long. We can get the marriage, but if we hate ourselves in the marriage, then we're not actually achieving probably the health goals that we really want. Who we want to become, I say, is just as not as much, if not even more important than what we do or who we do it alongside. And so I think if you are single listening to this, or wherever you're at in your relationship status, that you remember that this is a journey, and it's who we're becoming on that journey that will bring the hope into your heart. And I believe attract the kind of person who can see the worth for what it is, for who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great advice. Julia, some of our listeners are parents, they are teachers, they're leaders. What can they do to model and pass on the habits of hope to the next generation?
Oh, it's such a wonderful question. I work a lot with parents and educators. And I think there is this assumption with our young generation right now that they might be, I'm going to just share a couple of cultural assumptions, that they are lazy or a lost cause. And I think reminding ourselves of what this generation is up against is huge. They have pressures they cannot turn off, like we had the privilege of doing. And there's 3 significant things that this generation has shared with me that are reasons they struggle in silence. And one of them is that they don't want to look weak. The second one is they don't want to be a burden. And 3, they don't think anyone cares. And this starts to create what I call a cycle of silence, where they stay silent because they constantly think no one cares, or they don't want to be a burden, which is the opposite of sometimes what we assume about this younger generation that we're parenting and educating, that they don't care about anyone else, but they care so much that they like suppress and struggle in silence and suffer in silence. So it's remembering that they're going through a lot and not always trying to fix it or teach them or educate them or give advice, but holding a space where we can ask open-ended questions to give them different ways to release and to express so that they don't have to hold it all in. It's almost getting to know them, but getting good at finding ways to get to know the young people in our lives. And it might not look like talking. Why don't you send me a song that that you love right now? Why don't you draw me a picture of something that's been on your heart? And it's getting to know them. I would say the number one thing is holding that space to get to know them. And because they are holding in so much and they're feeling lonelier and more hopeless than we can imagine.
Music. What a connecting piece. Poetry, like you said, Dr. Julia. Pictures. Oh, that's beautiful. You have a wealth of knowledge, obviously, and personal experience to share. Tell us more where listeners can find out about you and your book, of course, The 5 Habits of Hope. And we're going to add those great resources to our show notes for everyone to find easily.
Thank you so much. The book is The 5 Habits of Hope, Stories and Strategies to Help You Find Your Way. You can get it wherever books are sold or listened to. I did the audiobook myself. It was so much fun. So if you want to listen to the audiobook, then you can get that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you tune into your podcast or your audiobooks, you will find that. And you can find me anywhere at Dr. Julia Garcia, Journey with Dr. J. And I am traveling all the time, working with organizations and schools. So hopefully I'll be in a community near you soon.
Yeah, so it sounds like you will be. We'll have to add that to our show notes too when we find out what college you're going to be at, maybe in the fall, right? Fall of 26.
Yes, I'll be in Utah in the fall.
Mm-hmm. Tell Dave real quick and our listeners about your podcast. How do you describe it? It's on the go podcast. What do you say it is?
Yes, it's a pop-up podcast that yes, again, I launched it right in parallel with the book. So it's been a lot, but it's still in motion. We are doing pop-up podcasts where when I travel somewhere, I'm finding select communities where we do live audience podcasts with the communities there. So it's been a lot of fun. We filmed quite a few and we're slowly trickling them out, but it's been a lot of fun. And that's Journey with Dr. J.
That is clever. Dave, isn't that something?
Love it. Absolutely love it. That's very clever. Oh, wow. Hey, Julia, as we wrap up our time together, we like to ask all of our guests a couple of questions. This first one in honor of the name of our podcast, Stronger Marriage Connection. What do you feel like is a key for a stronger marriage connection?
This one word that I'm going to share with you. Maybe.
Hence.
Maybe
more.
Maybe I can forgive them. Maybe we can be more in love than ever before. Maybe I can love myself. Maybe I can let go of something enough to let what they're wanting to share with me in. And this word maybe was the most pivotal moment for me. I say, if you don't take anything from the book, or what I'm saying here, just remember maybe, because I didn't always believe I had worth or value or purpose, or that I was capable of being married, having children, having a home life, having a relationship with anybody that was real and had depth. But what interrupted that thought cycle was maybe. Maybe I can.
It's beautiful.
Maybe is the tiny seed of hope I'm referring to. It's not, yes, I love myself and I can't wait to be loved by my husband or partner. It's maybe. And maybe creates momentum, and momentum creates possibility.
That is awesome. Maybe creates momentum. It feels like it's that turning point of, that glimmer of maybe. And that's like it's like this upward motion even of, getting out of the depths of despair. Maybe there is hope. Maybe there's a different path. Maybe, beautiful. Never heard that, Julia. That is great. And then our second question, before we wrap up is we call it our takeaway of the day. If there's a take-home message that you want our listeners to remember from our discussion today, what would it be?
Let yourself be seen, and never give up that fire inside that ignites your unique path towards hope.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely love it. Liz, what about you? What's your takeaway of the day with Dr.
Gosh,
Julia?
I had so many notes, Dave and Julia. I can't quite decide. Although I think the word that did stick with me is that sixth habit, as I teased Dr. Julia about, is that resistance of just watching that resistance and letting go. Like the song from Frozen, right? If I had a good voice, I'd belt it out.
Don't make
but
me sing
I love that. Let it go. I just think it's so true. That's what I'm going to be focusing on most. And Dave, what about you? What's the golden nugget from our time?
Yeah, Liz, I do. That one resonated with me as well. That word release, the ability to release. I think whether it's the release, being down on ourselves, maybe we said or did something that drags us down and that causes us to look down.
That's the better R term. That's the better sixth habit. Really?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, being able to release it, the past, and look forward and not stare at the rearview mirror of life. But there's hope in the windshield. There's hope moving forward and upward, and I absolutely love that. So man, Dr. Julia Garcia, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing these pieces of nuggets of wisdom. It's been so very helpful, and what a joy to have you. I hope the listeners will actually, I hope they'll tune into the YouTube version of this, because if you could see Julia's smile right now, that would bring you hope. Like this gal is full of hope and happiness and light and goodness. So it has been such a joy, truly, Julia, to have you on today.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be a part of your podcast. And thank you so much to everyone tuning in, listening. And thank you for having me here today. It meant the world.
You are just great. Well, our friends, that does it for us here. We will see you next time on another episode of the Stronger Marriage Connection podcast.
That's right. And remember, it's the small things that create a stronger marriage connection. Take good care now.
Thanks for joining us today. Hey, do us a favor and take a second to subscribe to our podcast and the Utah Marriage Commission YouTube channel at Utah Marriage Commission, where you can watch this and every episode of the show. Be sure to smash the like button, leave a comment, and share this episode with a friend. You can also follow and interact with us on Instagram at Stronger Marriage Life and Facebook at Stronger Marriage. So be sure to share with us which topics you loved or which guests we should have on the show next. If you want even more resources to improve your marriage or relationship connection, visit strongermarriage.org, where you'll find free workshops, e-courses, in-depth webinars, relationship surveys, and more. Each episode of Stronger Marriage Connection is hosted and sponsored by the Utah Marriage Commission at Utah State University. And finally, a big thanks to our producer, Rex Polanis, and the team at Utah State University, and you, our audience. You make this show possible. The opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of the Utah Marriage Commission.